Hello and welcome to Adventures in Venueland, an EVMC podcast. Join us for this all-access pass backstage and behind the scenes with some of the brightest minds that cross the scope of the live event industry. I'm Dave Rettelberger.
And I'm Paul Hooper. We'll introduce you to incredible guests who journey with us as we dive deep into the world of venues, tours, festivals, and everything in between. Grab your laminate and meet us in Venueland.
Today's adventure takes us to New York. On most episodes of Adventures in Venueland, we chat with the marketers on the venue side of things, but today we're flipping the script to see what life is like on the other side of the coin. Our guest is the marketing director for AEG's global touring division. Please welcome Missy Zedeck. Missy, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
We've worked together for years, but I'm excited to get to know more about you and kind of what you do. So tell us, what does it mean to be marketing director for AEG's global touring division? It's a great title, but what do you actually do?
It's got global in the name. That's how you know it's big time, right?
To answer your question of what do I do, every day is different. Every tour I work on is different. I actually started here at AEG as a coordinator, and I worked my way up to manager, senior manager, and now director. So I've kind of had every level of responsibility, if you will. I know that's how I started my relationship with you guys, as I was the venue coordinator for all the tours pre-COVID. So now I've stepped back a little bit from venue marketing, although I still like to keep my feet wet and talk to you guys. And then now it's, more of a big picture marketing for marketing budgets, any larger national campaigns that we do, and, also overseeing all of the marketing plans for the tours.
It seems more simple than it is, I'm sure. It's like, and you mentioned every single tour is different, right? Every artist is different. Everyone needs a little bit, different kind of hand-holding in different areas. And I'm sure it varies dramatically based off of the venues you're playing too, right? So, and your markets. So do you find like when you're on certain tours, you have to kind of be a little more in the weeds, and other ones you kind of, are able to step back a little bit? I'm sure that just changes tour to tour.
Yeah, there's definitely some we need to handhold a little bit and give a little bit more love than other tours, but that doesn't mean, not every tour gets a full amount of attention. It's just a matter of, how many seats are open, what is the artist willing to do? What is the artist team willing to do? If it's discounts, if it's giving away tickets locally, if it's, going a little bit more into the community. So every tour, has its own roadmap, if you will. And, we try and do it based off of, what we know about the artist and what they're willing to do.
You're working with some of the biggest names in the world out there on tour, but what does day-to-day look like for you? Walk us through, I know there's no average day, but walk us through what your typical day is like.
I try and kind of quote unquote touch every tour I work on every single day, whether it's just checking in with managers or agents or the tour buyer on the promoter side. But a typical day could go from reviewing marketing plans for upcoming tours, whether it's the on-sale period, maintenance, or back end, kind of depends on where we are in the calendar year, doing pure research on if there's some markets that aren't doing well, why is it not doing well, talking with the venues to get their input, seeing if there's anything, competition in the marketplace that week. I could be talking to ticketing about pricing strategy, reviewing maps. Is it selling back to front? Is there one price point that isn't moving? Should we do a little bit of discounting? What should that discount look like? Especially, around the holidays, everyone loves to do a good Cyber Monday, Black Friday sale. Our artists are open to that.
Just a few of those emails in my inbox.
Just a few, are you guys, I say you guys, Dave, because I know you're at the venue, but is there going to be a 12 days of Christmas or holiday countdown? Tickets make great gifts. So that's kind of where I am right now.
So you're not maybe as in the weeds as venues like you mentioned, but are you still kind of going around to a lot of these tours? Are you required to kind of go? Is it more of kind of ones that you want to go to? How much are you traveling with your job? Or is it mostly kind of if a tour you're working on stops by locally, you go and check it out and kind of check in with the camp?
Yeah, I'm lucky enough to be in New York, so I think every single tour comes through New York. We have four arenas here. So there is plenty to go around. I think there was one week where Global Touring had something like 20 shows in the market,
My gosh.
between, clubs, theaters, stadiums, arenas. It was crazy. We were very tired. In terms of travel, I try and go to the first or last tour date, depending on just kind of what gets approved. If it's Nashville, it's a little bit easier. If it's LA, it's a little bit easier just because I can kind of like go work out of those offices. If there's any sort of promotion, like if we have a serious flyaway promotion, I may go to that market just to make sure, depending on how big the promotion was, if it involves the venue or VIP, be there to kind of be on site as a point of contact. But, I'm very lucky that everyone comes through New York. And it's always, a big production because it's New York, whether it's an artist's first time selling out Madison Square Garden or multiple shows. So, I live in a great city.
You mentioned, clubs, arenas, stadiums. How do you approach marketing differently, for a global superstar versus, a rising act?
I would say start with budgets. The
Yeah, right. No
budgets,
kidding.
the budgets for the global superstar acts at the stadiums are much different than the theater
Yeah.
acts. And obviously depends on the genre. We know certain genres like EDM are late selling. So, try and save a little bit more money for the back end there versus any other artist where it would be more front end. I would say just it really depends on the budget. How much can we spend at the on sale? Looking at the data that we have, because we can see from past tours or similar artists from past tours, where people buy their tickets, whether it's in like the first week, the first month, and kind of adjusting our plan according to that. It's never a, even 50-50 split with traditional, quote unquote, and digital. So we kind of go into that. And then, when you have a larger budget, there's more things that you could do, and you could have a larger out of home presence. No one really does print anymore, but you can do more TV. You can buy those more expensive spots. Again, New York is an incredibly expensive market, but I do review plans from everywhere.
Have there been any artists that sort of remind you of your growth in the industry because maybe you worked on their tour when they were just starting out and kind of playing those smaller venues, and now you're seeing them elevate to that stadium level? I mean, I'm sure that's just really rewarding too, as you're kind of, have these artists that return maybe, and you've done multiple tours with them now and stuff. I mean, that's got to be really fun.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say one from a personal standpoint, he started at arenas and ended in stadiums was Elton John.
Sure.
Not really an up and coming artist, but I started here
Yeah,
as
little known artist out of
Elton.
England.
It rings a bell.
obviously played, both of your cities, but I
Sure.
started as a coordinator doing venue marketing. Not that he needs any, but truly just making sure that you guys had the correct art and emails.
There's still a lot of details to coordinate.
Yeah, and then by the time he was playing the Stadium Act, I actually locally marketed the two Toronto shows at Rogers Centre and also worked, as a larger marketer on, the entire stadium tour all the way through the three special shows at Dodger Stadium. So that's like a personal one for me.
Oh yeah, that's awesome. Did you go to the Dodger Stadium shows or any of them?
I went to all three.
Oh, amazing.
I was very lucky. I was like, this is history.
That's
I
so
need to
cool.
be here.
Yeah.
I watched it on Disney Plus. That's pretty much the same, right?
Yes, exactly. I've actually watched it, since it was only a few years ago, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
It feels like a lifetime ago, but that one's a really, really special one for me. In terms of like going to my inbox, I don't, trying to think. I'd say Kelsey Ballerini probably.
Sure. Oh,
Is
yeah.
one that, I worked on her theater tour right when COVID came back. I actually had COVID. I couldn't even go to the New York show. She was playing Radio City and those, kind of, not clubs, but not arenas, but that solid
Sure.
theater
Or
level.
opening for arenas or something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And she's open for a ton of artists. And then this past year, she played her first arena tour, and I was the marketing director on it. I worked really closely with Amy Buck on it and Sandbox and CAA, and kind of got to see it from start to finish as a director.
Oh yeah. She's having a huge moment. I mean, it's kind of incredible, and it's amazing to watch.
Yeah, it was a really great, watching her transition from a theater artist. Her music is absolutely amazing. It really speaks to me also just as a female. And then, being able to see she sold out the Garden on her birthday weekend last year. And then
wow.
we kicked off, I think, the arena tour in January.
It was a great tour. We talked about your day to day, but let's talk about your week to week. What are you doing on a week to week? Are you coming into the office most days? Are you working 9 to 5s? What's it like on, I know the
What's
answer,
one of
but,
What's
those?
a 9 to 5?
but
Yeah.
what's it, try not to laugh too hard.
It's 9
What's it
p.m.
like
to 5 a.m.
on that side of things? What is your schedule like?
We are currently 5 days in office. We're located, if you're familiar with New York, right by Flatiron, pretty easy commute, no complaints. So we're here. And then, I'd say it's more about like a 10 to 7, not really a 9 to 5.
Sure, sure.
I would say our mornings kind of tend to be quieter. And then once Nashville's up and then LA's online, our afternoons are just a little bit busier. I would say the only caveat is if you're working with like international, then your hours can be a little bit different depending. London, I could hit, well, it's noon here and 5 p.m. there, but Korea or anywhere else in the world, have to be a little bit flexible with when you could have the calls.
How often are you doing stuff in other countries?
I'd probably say 1 to 2 tours a year. And it may not be our tour. We just may be working with an artist who has dates over in London, and
Sure.
it's just having the same similar strategy.
That's what I was going to ask. Is marketing different when you're marketing, in places other than, obviously, America really well, but when you get into those other countries, are there any patterns or things that are different?
I mean, obviously selling patterns there are just a little bit different. And, even if it's not our show, it's mostly just the same art that we kind of go with. So I would say, otherwise we kind of leave it to the local promoters. They know their world best. I know sponsors are a really big thing overseas, which is not, really a thing here that we deal with on a day-to-day basis.
Hopefully you get to travel to some of the overseas shows, maybe, or at least ones that you'd like to.
I haven't yet, but I was actually in London this past summer and
Oh,
I
cool.
literally bumped into Leve's day-to-day manager
Oh,
on
nice.
the street. So I was able to go and see her perform in this like absolutely beautiful church. So that was just, it was a client that I work on her touring. And then I'm not exaggerating, I like walked out of the store and I was like, oh, I know you. Hi.
That's so crazy. Small world, right?
Exactly.
Gosh.
What are you seeing that's working in marketing right now? What are you when you see things? I know every market's got their own little things that work and don't work, but are you seeing more of a outdoor being something that's really paying off for you guys, or is it really digital? Where are you seeing the most success these days?
Obviously digital is, your go-to answer here. It's easy to track. We can, we know where the tickets are coming from, who's buying the tickets, et cetera. I would also just say creative and content is really important. There's so many tours at any given time that's just out in the world. So it's kind of trying to figure out how do you stand out among the noise and how do you make sure you tell your fans, come to my show, you should spend your money on my show and my merch. Just because a lot of people, it's really a 1 or 2 shows per year just based off of, how much money that they have, and the economy. So, I would say content and digital is probably the 2 main things. But, if it's a country tour, country radio is still a thing.
Yeah,
Sure.
right.
Yeah.
I was just having lunch with a friend today, and he was telling me, he's like, I right now am working on what my concert budget for 2026 is going to be. And this is just as an individual, right? But he's like, I bought tickets for a stadium show, and that already probably took up a huge chunk of my 2026 budget.
Yeah.
So, as from your side of things, how much, say do you guys have on pricing and those kind of things when you're working with the artist from the beginning of the tour and to make sure that you're setting everybody up for success?
Yeah. I mean, I don't really have a hand in pricing so much. I kind of leave that to our excellent and expert ticketing department. But I will post on sale, go in and see, are there holes in the arena? How is it selling?
Sure.
If it's selling back to front, maybe there is a pricing, strategy that we can all work on. And then I kind of just raise the flag and then push it over to ticketing and say, now you guys, do what you're good at. I will just,
Yeah.
but these are all based off of conversations that we have with the buyer, with the ticketer, and also artist, team manager, and agents.
What is some, and I'm sure this varies dramatically based off of the venue, but what are some things that you might wish kind of across the board venues knew a little bit more about from your side? Sometimes
Yes,
it's like
please.
we try to
How much time
communicate.
do
There's
you have?
venues. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Lay it out there.
7-hour episode.
I would say the biggest thing I promise when we have the art, we will give you the art. When we have the press
Sure.
release, we will give you the press release.
You mean you're not just holding onto it,
I
giggling, waiting
promise.
to hit send?
I promise I'm never sitting on information. I mean, this is me personally. I can't speak for anyone else.
Sure.
But I am never sitting on information that would be beneficial to the venues that make their job easier and make, at the end of the day, we all have the same goal of filling up their room, whether it's 2,000 people or 50,000 people plus. We all have the same goal. We all want the same thing, to make it a successful night for the artist. I will never do anything or hold back anything that will be, beneficial to them. Whether
Sure.
that's something as simple as, hey, the artist is going to be on Fallon today, all the way through the much larger conversation of, hey, the album's coming out next week. How can you do to support it? Go ahead, Dave. I saw you wanted
No,
to
no,
say
no. I
something.
just wanted to say because I love your answer there, and I think that is a huge misconception in this business, and I'm sure you deal with it all the time. Every time you get somebody new in a building, especially. So, educate us a little bit on because there's nothing more frustrating than you've been working on a show for a month with somebody, and then and the press release doesn't isn't coming until 5 minutes after the announce, right? Or the social copy comes afterwards, or whatever it is. So from a venue side, or is it just? I mean, again, I'm not looking to throw anybody under the bus, but
No.
is it just the level number of people that are approving it on the artist side and the management side and the promoter side and everybody having to go through the
Right,
phases
everybody
that
adds a
causes
layer.
that
Yeah.
delay for art and those different pieces.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much that goes into it. I would say press release normally starts off with, we start off the conversation or the manager does with the publicist or the agent does, and they draft something up. And I've seen releases that kind of go through 20, different versions. We really want to make sure in the first few sentences we hit, obviously the who, what, when,
Sure.
where, and we don't really need a why, but making sure they're highlighting key venues that they're going to be playing. Are they playing the Garden? Are they playing Crypto or the Forum? Start date, end date. Making sure like that's in that first paragraph because that's what the press is going to pick up in addition
Hmm.
to the venue listings. I always love to have a quote from, I mean, I say I as if I'm the one writing these, but I always ask, can we get a quote from the artist? I think those go a long way, and fans will see that, and especially press will see that and really pick that one up too. And then I think I review listings and routings 30 times, and that's just me without asking a coordinator to review it, the buyer, because I look at it for so often, like I need more
Sure.
eyes on
Lots
it.
of details,
And
right?
so
And
many,
like it's so easy to, and especially,
Oh,
so many of those dates you've got little like asterisks mean this opener and the carat means this and like it would
yeah.
be so easy to misplace one of those, right?
Exactly. So, I would say it's a very detail oriented document. And that's usually why it takes a second for us to send it out. And also, if it's tied to music, if it's being, if the tour is
Sure.
being
Yeah.
released with a new album or a
yeah.
new single, like the publicist and the team may not want it in anyone else's emails before it's meant to deploy.
Sure. Yeah.
So, we trust all of you, but there's always an intern, I unfortunately have to say, who'd be like, oh, this is great, send,
Right.
and there we go.
All it takes is one.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't mean to blame interns. I was there. I get
No,
it.
no, no. They don't know any
They're
better. They're
they're the
just excited.
backbone, but
Yeah.
exactly. They're just so excited to be like, oh, I just got this new announced press release. No one's seen it yet. And I'm so excited that press go.
Let's
Yeah.
go.
When it comes to venues, there's so much put into front of house, back of house, welcoming, all of that stuff. Do you think, kind of from a general across the board, do you think that is a trend that's going to keep going and getting more and more kind of complicated or not necessarily complicated, but just become just such a huge part of every venue? It felt like, let's take it 5 years ago, right? It may be certain venues, if you were in a big market or you were a key thing, there was a certain expectation, like this is a big date on the tour, we're really going to play it up. Or maybe your show sold the most of the whole tour. Now it does feel like that line has moved up and everyone's kind of doing some of it. And of course, there's some markets that are just really going for it and they have the budget or they just have the creativity, which is great. But what do you what's your thoughts on sort of that whole, front of house, back of house, welcome type of thing?
I actually think it's two separate conversations.
Yeah.
I think back of house is, and we have, or not we, but there are awards at EVMC for this, for the
Oh yeah.
artist gift.
Yeah.
So, which I love. And they're all the venues truly knock it out of the park in terms of the research that they do for the artists, wanting to make them happy and give them something theoretically that they're going to use that, they can relate to.
Sure.
And then the back of house, is fun. It's, definitely to make an artist feel welcome. I am not on the road with them, but I know that the tour reps on our end, they absolutely love when there's puppy playtime or a
Sure.
coffee cart, or
Yeah.
one venue told me that they do like haircuts for people on site because these people,
Smart. Yeah.
they fly, they go to hotel, they event, especially the stadium tours, they go to the venue, they, build the stage because it takes a week for stadiums. When are they going to have time to get their hair done or their nails done? So I think it really makes it special, especially for the crew and the artists, to feel welcome coming into the space. I think front of house is, fan activation times a bajillion. You want these
Right.
fans to
Right.
come back to your venue. Again, New York, we have 4 venues here. So, how do you guys stand out between the others? Is it a step and repeat? Is it something that they can do outside, but not every venue has an outside that they can do,
Yeah.
an activation? You sometimes need to get permits. So they try to, really stand out and make sure that the fans are having the best time and make sure that it's on brand with the artist and making sure that, we see it beforehand and we send it to the venues. I will say that sometimes I really love when venues want to spend money, and maybe this is just my thoughts, is I appreciate if you want to spend money on back of house for an artist, but if our tour isn't selling well, I kind of want you to use the budget
Right.
towards
Take some.
promotions.
Right. Exactly.
Help me sell some tickets, and then I'm happy to approve whatever you want for back of
Right.
house.
What good is a beautiful welcome to an empty house, right? Like it's like you'd much rather fill it up and have a big event.
I was just talking about an artist who sold 6,000 tickets, but required a $10,000 spend backstage, and he was like, "Can I please put that money towards the marketing budget?"
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
Wow. Dropped on that one.
Yeah, yeah, we've all been there. Talking about social media, because I think it's obviously such a huge piece of the industry, and it's trending in different ways. Where do you think, how important is social media? Is it the ad spends there that makes the most sense? Is it the artist content? Is it the fan content? A little bit of all.
Yes, a little bit of all. Next question. Um,
Easy. All the above.
I think fan content is really important and all the user generated stuff. Obviously, we know how quickly something can go viral from a concert. As simple as, I don't know if you saw the Jonas Brothers Scott Kelly resume that just went viral on TikTok overnight. They ended up finding the guy and he was on Fallon with the band the other day.
Crazy.
Obviously that's not about the concert, but good promotion is good press. I think it's, an artist pushing out their tour. We'll take all the content that we can get. Some venues, I know they always ask for a liner, and, we always ask for it. It's not necessarily something that's easy for an artist to do just because there's potentially 30 venues on the tour. And then for venue socials, also very important. We're just running into the issue of song clearances. So
Sure.
that's something that we really try and get ahead of time, as much as we can. And it's a lot of the time down to the wire.
It's amazing how many different venues handle things differently, where some are posting full songs and full TikTok audio, and they're using it on other formats, and other folks are really locked down. How does that change with what you're doing from your side of things? How much are you and your team, talking to the cities and finding out, the differences in the cities, as opposed to, hey, here's the standard boilerplate copy and video that should be used for everybody?
I think for an announce, we try and get everybody to use the same sort of video, just because that's what's approved by the artist. I will say if a venue comes to me with a creative idea, I 100% take it to management. I am a sucker for any sort of mascot, player involvement, coach involvement
Sure.
video. I think that makes it unique. I think that makes it more relatable to the fans in the market. But we have venues who are just saying legally we can't post these songs until you have clearance. And some venues are even like, we can't post no matter if you do have clearance. So we're going to have to stick with the static ad mat. And then we have to dive a little bit deeper into the conversations of a static ad mat may not be selling this show once it's posted 15 times over 4 months. What can we do
Right.
that's different on your socials?
When you are at this, the stage of your career, tell me what your team looks like. You know what I mean? Like, who are you working with on a day-to-day basis on your side of things?
We have an incredible team of marketing here run by Rich Holtzman and Amy Buck. I know you guys have been working with like Derek Schaefer for so many years. And we have a few other directors and some amazing managers and coordinators. I probably talk to them every single day, depending on the tour. I talk to our ticketing department, I talk to our buyers, and then externally also like publicists, agents, managers.
Got some good names to drop there. Amy's a big fan of Amy too.
Yes.
For folks who are thinking about getting into, your side of marketing, what's one skill or mindset that
Mm,
you think makes the biggest difference?
good question.
I think skill is, it's not really a skill, but I will say listen to music.
Yeah.
I was interviewing somebody once, this was many years ago, and I said, "Oh, what are you listening to?" And I forget who they mentioned, but it was an artist that already had a top 40 song. And I'm like, oh, okay, like that doesn't tell me anything. That tells me you listen to the radio or you listen to TikTok.
Right.
You know, I always say, broaden out your horizon. Even if you're a country music listener, make sure you listen to pop or, alt music or rock music, et cetera, because you also never know what you're going to like. And if you're working on something that's in those other genres, you should kind of know what you're marketing.
Yeah.
Um, was advice part of your question?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Someone wants to be the next Missy.
Oh.
Not that we want anyone to steal your job,
Not that
but
that's even possible, but
right,
hypothetically,
exactly.
let's humor us.
Hypothetically, alternate world. Right.
I would say network. You never know where your next job is going to come from. It's nice to have friends also in the industry who you can meet up with at shows. I know, Nashville does this so much because it's such a tight-knit community. Network as much as you can. Be nice to everybody because again, you never know who your next boss is going to be. Be patient, I would say. I know a lot of people, it's go, 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 and you may not get the answer you want right away.
I think that's a great point, though, like giving people grace in this industry.
Amen.
It is a pressure cooker at best. And often it's like people are dealing with it in so many ways, and just giving grace and having some patience goes a long way. And just,
Yes.
not only helping you succeed, but also helping that networking, like you mentioned.
Yeah, and also keeping it all in perspective. It's really important what we do. It's somebody's, touring is somebody's lifestyle, it's somebody's income. But looking at the larger picture of we're not, when I was an assistant, somebody used to say to me, we're not curing cancer, which is just to say, these are concerts, these are fun. They're supposed to be fun. Remember that at the end of the day.
Right. Yeah. No, that's a great point. That's a great point.
So when you've been AEG for a while, but you've also had some experience, with Live Nation, CAA. Talk to me about kind of your other stops along your adventures here through Venueland.
It's funny because I feel like I've kind of been doing very similar things just on different, was it spokes on a wheel or
Sure. Yeah.
whatever that saying is. I was really fortunate at CAA to be working and kind of learning, I would say kind of from the ground up because agents end up routing the tour along with managers, and I kind of got to see everything from start to end. So it was a really nice way of kind of my introduction into music marketing post college. But it wasn't just tours there, versus what I do now. It was festivals, it was one-offs, it was, everything in between. It was tours where it wasn't a promoter deal. So it was 15 different dates, 15 different promoters that you had to work with.
Yeah.
Kind of where I am now is, I kind of work on all 15 dates. So it was definitely a learning curve and also kind of learning how to be an assistant. And I know that sounds silly, but being able to like work a calendar and,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
skill that I gained from that. And now when people ask me to schedule calls with 15 people, I'm like, okay, remember, you can do this. It is possible.
Right, right. No, that's not silly. And I mean, sometimes cutting your teeth on some of those things early in different roles, it's like that is invaluable as you're, doing other things, because then you can fall back on that. You're right. And sometimes people don't have that, and you can tell they get a little overstressed or something, and you're like, oh, this is not that big of a deal. Like, let me show you,
I mean, come on now. As I understand it, one of your first jobs was helping run a day camp for 130 second grade children. You probably learned so much patience from
Everything's a
that
walk in the
job
park.
that helps you manage all these venue marketers, right?
Oh yeah, I feel like that is a literal lifetime ago. Yes, working at a day camp, I think is honestly one of the best things you can do. It teaches you so many skills. Patience, obviously, with those second graders is great. But also being flexible because the day could start out, shining sky or whatever. It could turn into a rain day by the end of the day. And you kind of just have to go with the flow and work with it. You learn to be really creative. These second graders, their patience lasts for about 3 minutes. And once those 3 minutes are up, what are you going to do next? You have to think on your feet. You have to really be able to pivot and you get to have fun. And, kind of before your life starts and you're a real adult, you get to spend your day with second graders and, seeing the world through their eyes. And they're so young. It's so, I would probably, if you asked me tomorrow what I would be doing instead of this, it would be probably working at a camp full time.
That's
There you
awesome.
go. That's awesome.
You talk about what if you aren't doing this, and so if you're not at work, where are we likely to find you? What do you like to do in your office hours or
You're
your
at a
off hours, I
show.
should say?
You're seeing the Jonas Brothers. Yeah, I saw your story. You're living it up with Jonas.
Watching the Jonas Brothers Christmas movie.
It's my plan for next week when my entire family is here. It's on the agenda.
Amazing.
Outside of going to shows, I would say I live in New York. I love exploring New York. Central Park is probably my favorite place in the city. I'm a really big reader. So you can find me on the weekends probably just reading and catching up on that. I'm very fortunate that a lot of my friends and family live here. So my weekends are kind of spent catching up with them and catching up on sleep and, enjoying New York City.
How many shows do you get to see? I mean, I know that this is a very gray, blurry area, but how many do you get to see for fun versus work? Do you make it a point to go to ones that maybe are tours you haven't worked on that you just kind of really want to go see because it's a hot artist or it's a really cool tour or whatever it is, maybe you like listening to them. How many of those are you able to kind of squeeze into the crazy schedule?
My schedule is very flexible. So I try and support everyone here and go to those shows. We have a really great team here that we're really all close, especially, a bunch of us have been here since the pre-COVID days. So I try and go and support all of our shows. Outside of that, I try and go to what I can go to based off of, my own discretionary income for concerts.
Sure, right. How's your 2026 budget looking? Right. Yeah.
I was in the queue for Ticketmaster the other day, guys. It's rough out there.
It's rough on those streets.
It's rough on the streets. That's right. Rough in that queue.
Yes, for sure. Well, hey, I loved hearing know a little more about you and everything you're doing there. Before we wrap things up, I want to hit you with our fast five. It's 5 quick questions, just looking for your short, immediate response. First up, what was your very first concert?
I don't remember, but I'm going to go with probably a Backstreet Boys concert or NSYNC.
Oh yeah.
Do you have a favorite concert after all these years?
Oh my, I have like top 3.
Yeah, sure, go for it.
Go for it. Yeah. All 3 Elton shows. No.
I love Elton John, but that's more of like a milestone in my career versus I love the shows. Backstreet Boys at the Sphere.
Oh, nice.
If you have not seen
Did you wear
Sphere,
all white? Did you do
I did.
Oh, of
I
course,
did.
of course.
I went all out.
Of course, yeah.
If you haven't, it was an amazing show. Those, I want to say boys, but they're, 50-year-old men at this point. They still have the moves. I would maybe say Kelsey Ballerini at the Garden, A, as a fan, and B, it was one I worked on and kind of got to really see from start to finish what we do and, getting to see all those fans. And she had just released the album the same day. Everyone already knew all the words. It was really special. And I saw Harry Styles at the Troubadour a few years ago.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Great venue.
Yeah.
Nice.
So that was an amazing artist, an iconic venue, obviously a very small venue for an artist like that. So that was pretty special.
You mentioned in your advice, listen to music. Give us an album to check out.
Ooh. I've been listening to a lot of Somber's album, a lot of Olivia Dean. I know I don't preach what I speak about, researching artists, but I am a radio girl. I still listen to it sometimes. I listen to Sirius XM. So I would say those 2 albums I'm really loving right now.
You mentioned loving to read. Give us a book recommendation.
Oh my God. I gotta know what genre are we talking? Thriller, rom-com.
How about just the last great book you read?
I just read Taylor Jenkins Reid's newest book, Atmosphere. She's an incredible writer. She wrote Daisy Jones and Evelyn Hugo. It was an amazing book. I'll just leave it at that.
Last question for you. What's your theme song? Reality TV cameras follow you around, filming the story of your life. What's the song that plays over the opening credits of the Missy Show?
Okay, this is an introspective song, but I would go with Lucky by Britney Spears.
Okay. Yeah. Nice.
So
She's so
it could change
lucky.
next hour, but that's
Right.
what we're going with.
On that note, we'll wrap things up. Before we say goodbye, though, if people want to reach out to you or follow along with your life, where's the places they can find you online?
I think I'm everywhere except Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I don't do TikTok. I think I'm a Reels girly.
Okay, sure. Yeah.
So I will see everything about a week after TikTok, but
Nice.
and I know as a marketer, probably shouldn't be saying this. As a marketer, everyone's on TikTok, but Reels are just as important.
Amen.
That's right. Yeah.
Amen.
Go sign.
Love that. Missy, thank you so much for sharing the time today. Really great to get to know you, and best of luck with all the fun there in New York.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
And a big thanks for everybody for listening for this episode of Adventures in Venueland. Remember, you can subscribe and find more episodes wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. We do love your 5-star reviews because it helps other folks find us. Until the next adventure, I'm Dave Rettelberger.
And I'm Paul Hooper. Thanks for listening, everyone. Adventures in Venueland is a side project of the Event and Venue Marketing Conference, a marketing conference that brings together diversified event and venue professionals to cultivate education, collaboration, and innovation for the growing sports and live entertainment industry. Find out more at eventvenuemarketing.com.
Audio editing and mixing by Camille Faulkner.
Design and digital advertising by Megan Ebeck.
Copywriting and publicity by Samantha Marker.
Guest booking and brand strategies by Paul Hooper.
Guest research by Dave Rettelberger.
Marketing strategies by Paul Hooper, Megan Ebeck, and Samantha Marker. Thanks for joining us. Until the next adventure.